Why don't we open up for questions at this point? And if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A app at the bottom of your screen. I've got one question here that maybe Billy could respond to. What about Area 95? Has that been designated online meeting area?
Yeah, I think people are confusing things when they keep perpetuating this Area 95 talk. Just talk about what happens to online meetings. You're designated an international meeting. There is no such thing as Area 95 officially inside our structure. The question is, if you are an online home group, should you be able to say, I want to be in the South Florida area, or I want to be in the North Jersey area? And the question is going to come up. That's great if all your members are from that area, but what about if you're an online home group from all around? What area do you join? So I think this is something that has to be on the agenda for AAWS going forward in the conference. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Janice brought up in her talk about how the institutions are sort of lagging behind in making technology available. Any thoughts on how we can help speed up that process or support that process better than we're doing today?
Well, I would say this. I don't really think they're lagging behind. I think if you compared their technology to ours overall, I think they're pretty up there. I would say that our job is to let them know that we're available. And right now, none of our literature says that. I just spoke at a meeting in a prison. There are meetings in Florida now, treatment centers that are letting people come in. There are issues around HIPAA and privacy and security and secured methods of digitally communicating. But I think what we need to do is sit down with these facilities and say, how can we do it? And let them figure out their technology piece. So that's what I think.
This is an interesting question, and it goes back to what you were talking about, Billy, on the uptick in donations that came into GSO. Do we have any statistics on, how many of the donations are digital versus, checks or that?
Sure. Well, yeah, that's an easy question, but let's make sure we're very clear. There's two parts to that question. About 10% of the people who contribute to GSO do it in a digital format, right? But the other part of that question is, what about how the group gets the money and then gives it to GSO? That's the part that grew in March, April, and May. Is many groups that did not accept digital contributions all of a sudden were. But as far as how people are giving money to GSO, it's about 10%.
Okay, great. Let's see. I'm just looking to see what we have here. I think the presenters also have technology or have the questions being presented to them. So if you see one that really jumps out at you, feel free to jump in on this.
You mean that we can read the questions?
Yeah, can't you see them?
I can see that there's questions there, but it does not give me the right to open them.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then I will. We had an interesting situation, Billy, in District 4, where we referred to this on our flyer, this meeting today on our flyer as a Zoom service meeting. And the question was raised as to whether or not we were doing affiliation, violating the affiliation tradition.
Yeah, well, first of all, unfortunately, there are a lot of people in AA service. I wish I knew we're not in AA service. That's just my personal opinion. They're going to do all they can to drive as many people away. Their job in life is to be teachers or correctors, correcting flyers, telling everybody else what to do. We could use a lot less of those people. So I'll say that first. Second, phrase it right. It's not a Zoom AA service meeting. It's a service meeting on the Zoom platform. But let's not go crazy about the word Zoom. Let's think about words like when Xerox became synonymous for copying, right? Make me a copy? No, make me a Xerox. So, like, we all know, right? Like, there's tons of names that are the first, and all of a sudden that becomes synonymous with the act. I don't think printing Zoom, because I could tell you, for the untrained person, that when you print a phone number and you put a number 1 down or before the area code, are you affiliating with the long distance carrier that's using that as an access code? No, of course you're not. But that's what the number 1 means. But I think it's the way you phrase it. I think if you phrase it properly, it's fine.
Thanks, Billy. And yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, and we have to be more. We have to be careful about our phrase.
But I want to say this too. I'm a big person who believes in comparing the digital to the non-digital. Every single South Florida assembly that I can find a notice for has the name of the hotel on it. Now, I don't know how many years ago that started, but I'm going to guess it's been going for a while. All Zoom is a location. It does not mean it's the official communication. When I spoke at the South Florida Assembly in Sarasota, I believe it was at the Hyatt. Would I be right there? Is that the hotel
Yes.
there?
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe the Hyatt is the official hotel of the South Florida General Service Area. But to let people know where they're going, they just don't put the street address on the flyer. They say, this is the Hilton. This is the Hyatt. This is, even in meeting directories, we don't call the meeting the name of a church or the name of a building, but we do put the name of the building there to help people find it. And the word Zoom is just to help someone find something. That's it.
Thank you, Billy. Billy, could you comment just briefly, because you mentioned a couple of times about the digital contributions into GSO, the groups embracing digital seventh basket. Can you just comment briefly on how GSO is doing financially at this point?
I don't think it's my job as a past trustee to, I can only go by what I read.
Yep.
And what I read, we're doing fine. We tell the groups we need money and the groups show up. And thank God when we needed money, we had been so prudent and careful. We had 9 or 10 months of reserve in the bank. But it seems we are doing fine, but we still have to be vigilant.
We have a question here. Can you talk about how GSO is looking to optimize AA's SEO?
Well, I would just tell people again, I'm not on the AWS board anymore, but talk to your delegate about Google AdWords. Ask your delegate what's going on there. Ask your delegate, is your area optimizing your area website? GSO is doing everything they can. It's much better than it used to be. But I am confident that they have a plan and they're moving forward. Unfortunately, there is a website called alcoholicsanonymous.com owned by a person in Florida. that when you go to that website, it gets people into treatment facilities. Hopefully someday we'll deal with that as well, but under current SEO, that will come up when you search Alcoholics Anonymous. But I think we're on the right path, and I think there's some great people serving at GSO right now that want to take us to the next level. And hopefully, I think that's the big silver lining of COVID. I think the handcuffs are off. I think now people know. It used to be if you wanted to be popular in AA service, you could be the person that wants no change, wants to keep everything the way it is, and quell any new ideas. I think COVID has taken care of that forever, hopefully.
You mentioned, a terrific suggestion, on how we should treat new people to service, that we welcome them to bring new ideas. This is something that we keep struggling with, how to get people enthused and participate in service. Do you have any other suggestions that, especially with our elections coming up in October, for attracting people to the general service world?
Well, I mean, I have lots of thoughts on that. I obviously think sponsorship is very important. But how many people could be sponsored by a really good member of AA who's not active in general service, and then you show up in an assembly or a district? I think my number one suggestion is to always make encouragement and not correction your number one mission. There is nothing wrong with privately helping somebody. They make a mistake on a flyer. Maybe one of my pet peeves is when they say donate instead of contribution, right? I can't stand that, right? But that doesn't need to be publicly. That doesn't need, if you don't have the time to spend time with the person you're about to correct, that someone spent time with you, then don't do it. And the other thing I would say is, and I know this is going to sound completely crazy, but we need to relook at how we've been doing service, top to bottom. We need to look at the amount of hours that were taken out of people's lives between district meetings and assemblies. We need to see how technology could maybe allow more people to participate. We need to really look at it head to toe. So.
I am so glad to hear you say that, because I think the technology can really be a boom to getting people involved in service. Let me see. Do we have any other questions here? I think we're sort of coming to the end at this point. I see. No. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap up at this point. We started right at 9:30, and once again, we can't hear the applause, but please, just I just want to speak for everybody and say, Billy and Janice, thank you so much for your presentations today. I've seen the comments. People have said, what a breath of fresh air, looking to the future, the opportunity to do things differently, but still embrace our principles. This is exactly the sort of thing that, we should be looking at. And it's through this type of session that we can attract new people into service and get them enthusiastic about what we're doing. I'm going to ask Mick, our district chair, to put up our last poll at this point. Well, actually, we have 2 polls. So, Mick, if you could put those polls up while I'm wrapping up, I would appreciate it. Yeah, I just want to talk briefly about our next coffee talk session. As Billy has demonstrated this morning, the work with the newcomers is our personal lifeline, and it's the lifeblood of our spiritual program. And we each make this possible in our own way. And it defines our present activities, but it also guides our future activities. 4 founding moments in AA anchor this work. And whenever possible, we share these moments with our sponsees and with our groups. And we are so excited to announce at this point that our next presentation in November is going to be by Mike M. from Area 29, who I've got to tell you, I've heard this presentation twice. It is inspiring, it's insightful, and it's a presentation on the 4 founding moments in AA. And these moments that he talks about make all we do today possible. And I can assure you that this presentation will make Gratitude Month in 2020 extra special for anybody who attends the meeting. The meeting's going to take place on November 14th. It's going to be at the same time, 9:30 to 11:30. And I hope that all of you will attend the session. So I just want to wrap up by saying thank you, thank you, thank you to our presenters. It is so remarkable that we did this morning. We shared this information and we had a peek, a look into the future. I want to thank the organizers for the event. And most of all, I want to thank the 150 people that were on this meeting this morning for your contribution just by being here and demonstrating the importance of service in AA. At this point, I'd like to close the meeting out with our responsibility statement, and thank you all for attending. Responsibility statement. I am responsible
when
anyone, anywhere reaches out to help.
For help. I
I
want
want the hand of AA always to be there.
And for that,
I am responsible.
thank you so much, everybody.